But what does gender diversity mean? Do we mean 50-50 representation? 50% men and 50% women? Or do we say it has to be a fair representation? Men and women being hired at similar and consistent rates? Do we look at that? More women in the front line, mid and C-suite levels? Or a pay which is equal to the kind of work that people do, irrespective of whether it's a man or a woman, irrespective of what their previous pay packages have been? Do we really have a fixed set of pay in our organizations for a specific set of roles and functions? Or do we peg a person's remuneration to the package that he or she was earned in his previous organization? And research today proves that women by default do not ask for more money even during their appraisals, because their perspective and their requirement of job and their motivation is more intrinsic rather than extrinsic. For the very fact that they are more intrinsically driven, they look for more intrinsic comforts rather than or against extrinsic factors like a salary, additional perks, or promotions, etc., when they look for a job and when they look for the need to consistently be on that job. They want safety, they want security, they want equal opportunity, and they want equal amount of motivation for them to really come out and really give their best. And many women, by default, Indian society have men driving their home. So they really bring in the second income into the household. And because it is a second income, and they already have an assurance of an income which is being brought in by their husbands in that manner, really are not tempted to really go after money, after position, and after hierarchy. They are more choosy of their jobs. They are more wanting to be in workplaces which offer them a safe and secure place to work. They are more wanting to be in organizations which give them equal opportunity to really bring in their best. While the organization, during an appraisal process, looks at men and women equally. And in fact, it is a paradox. During appraisals, organizations look at men and women equally and try and give them extrinsic motivating factors to really bring life the best and retain the best, failing to realize which motivates which audience. So while all of us talk about diversity and inclusion, I think as organizations, we are today still at a very periphery of this concept. We have not really gone deep down to understand the nuances on ground. Yes, we would have formulated certain policies or would have extended certain policies which are currently prevailing in our organizations to the LGBTQ or to women employees or to persons with disabilities. But have we really formulated something which is exclusively for these audiences? Or are we just riding on the existing policies and saying that we are extending this to this workforce as well? To give you a simple example, we say that we want to see women in C-suite positions or women in frontline and mid-level capacities in organizations. But how many of our organizations have really given a mandate to our HR colleagues in terms of the percentage of CVs that you need to source before you fill a particular position? Today, what happens is, yes, we would be keen to bring in women workforce, but would say, let's not wait for us to really reach out to the ideal woman to be in this place. Rather, we'll fill in the position with the appropriate fit And majority of the times, because you have a lot of men available in the market and looking for jobs, you'll end up recruiting men first. Had there been a mandate saying that this position needs X percentage of women resumes to be evaluated before you really decide to close this position, it would have been a more structured approach. Similarly, the race is not to fill the organization with a 50-50 proposition. The objective is do an unbiased recruitment process, do an unbiased evaluation process, and give a fair chance to that person or that human without actually looking at gender or previous experience or qualifications. I'm sure the majority of us who are working today would have taken our degrees or our masters in the next subject and would be working in a Y field, right? So what is the relevance of an education? What is the relevance of an experience? Today, organizations want people who are committed, who are ready to give that extra mile and really perform on the job. Experience doesn't matter anymore. Education doesn't matter anymore. But still, for us, gender matters. That is the bias that exists in organizations today. Even in my career, I've seen women employees who do not perform. But the moment you see a woman employee not performing, you brand the entire sector as people who will not perform. You might have one woman force who might not be comfortable working in the front line or in the field sales roles. But that doesn't mean that you can unconsciously or consciously bring in a biased statement saying that, look, we can't hire women workforce on frontline because they don't like working in frontline. You see a lot of women actually working in frontline field level sales roles and doing absolutely good, or rather tremendously good jobs. But because of our previous experience or because of our unconscious bias, you generally tend to take certain decisions. Not just men, even I've seen women making statements saying that, look, I would want a guy to be handling this role. I would want men in my role because they can sit late and execute work. Today, unfortunately, men are in a more hurry to leave and reach their home at 6:30 than women. That's something which we are not realizing. And we see a lot of women who are willing to stretch and give you the best. So why lose that opportunity? So while we speak about gender, while we speak about diversity, while we speak about inclusion, we are still only at an awareness level. We are still limited to a benefits level. We have actually not deep dive into the actual process or the culture of bringing in diversity in organization. Yes, we are doing a lot of efforts from an employee engagement perspective, from an inclusion perspective, but is this good enough? When the entire world has raced much ahead of us in even understanding diversity and inclusion, we are still at a very nascent stage as a country or as an organization trying to or grappling with figuring out where do I start? Do I start with women? Do I start with LGBTQI, or do I start with people with disabilities? I think us who are part of this session today to be those champions of change and take up that responsibility and onus on yourself and not wait for somebody to really give you that responsibility or that baton to drive diversity in organizations or in workplaces. And that's the very motive behind me having chosen this opportunity of coming on board to really speak about gender diversity and inclusion. There are some interesting findings during COVID times. majority of the women in organizations, or rather 72% of the women who were actually surveyed uh, through HBR, Harvard Review, indicated that they have had negative interactions with their manager. There was lack of communication and expectation setting that happened with specifically women employees. All of them were given work from home facility, but unfortunately without any flexibility. And there were a lot of instances when there was oversetting of work-life boundaries. What is the result of all these? And the survey states that 72% of our women colleagues are unlikely to come to work if this situation continues for the next 1 year. That is emotionally drained because of negative interactions, expectation settings not being clear because of lack of communication, flexibility not being given because end of the day work from home means nothing changes, right? You don't go to office, but you sit at home and work. So for everybody, 9 to 6 is 9 to 6, and only the place changes without realizing, because there are other factors which are also glued to that ecosystem of children's education. Everybody is sitting at home. Their husbands are sitting at home. They need to manage their home. They need to clean. They need to ensure that the children are also occupied and doing their work. Along with that, they need to also understand and do their work deliverables. And what happens? Because we, or rather, because majority of your positions are held by men, and in fact, it's also a personal experience, and it's an eye opener when my wife told me that, look, you don't understand anything, because what you do is take up your laptop, take up your diary, go and sit in a corner of the room from 9:30 to 6:30, and that's the end of life for you. You don't really understand, and you don't really bother about what's happening around. But for us women, there are a lot of things that we need to really manage and take care of, right? So as men driving organizations or driving teams, for us, life has not changed. Only the environment has changed. Instead of sitting in home and doing the same, failing to realize that for our women colleagues, there is a lot more support and empathy that needs to be really given, so that they can also coexist and really bring in the best of both home and work. Typically, I'm sure these are some of the clear-cut issues that women face at work. Step into a meeting, you don't see any similar face. You see all men around. You get promoted, there is not too much of a celebration. Yeah, she got promoted. It's a big deal. Assumptions that, look, anyways, women don't come with too much of ambitions, so why take them to the C-suite? Being judged while discussing family, or if a women colleague decides to leave early, then there's a judgment saying that, look, she's leaving early. Expectations, ample time, that you have ample time, either because you are single or you are not a mother. When it comes to recruitment, if you are single, the first bias that comes to anybody's mind is, look, the possibility that the person would get married and there is going to be 8 to 12 months of maternity. How do we manage that? Other issue, like I said, is complete freedom of work from home, but absolute no flexibility. Your time or your office time starts at 9:30, ends at 6:30, or might be beyond. Balance, not an opportunity balance between family and work. And when you are in gatherings or in meetings, you are not really asked for an opinion, because the rest of the dominance really makes opinions and decides. So this workplace bias is equally applicable for men and women. So for women, it's more of a feeling of not being committed to work because they are a mother, a wife, either single or do not have any responsibilities. For men, they are less committed. The bias depends in work to the family, because end of the day you're a man, and he is seen as a superhuman who is capable of doing everything and anything. And fortunately, unfortunately, because of our bias, because of our egos, we don't really talk about our feelings, because we want always to be seen as very hard and very full of taking on anything. So these are biases which exist in both men and women, and this leads to certain outcomes and interpretations that get in organization. Coming to the crux of our today's discussion, while I said a lot of companies are doing a lot of policy measures, a lot of practices, a lot of engagement events, is this good enough for us to really bring on and take this diversity? I think it's not. Some of these measures which could be looked at are, like I said, mandate a percentage in recruitments for any position which is open. Make sure that there are X percentage of CV which are sought for before you decide to really close the position. Earmark certain roles and positions, saying that roles and positions are meant for this specific set of people, and decide that you will not close those positions or want of pressure from business or otherwise till the time you find the person who is actually fit and eligible for that position and role. Remove gender coded words from JDs, because a lot of women look at certain specific words like aggressive, out of the box, assertive. If they see similar kind of words which are very aggressive, very male dominant words, they don't even choose to really apply for those. Bring in parity, stop asking for previous space. End of the day, whether you are a man or a woman, and if you are entitled or if you are required to do a specific job or a specific role in a company, you need to be paid equally. And this, I think, is the biggest step that organizations can take to bring in parity, because if you go by the traditional processes, women will always fall behind in history. If you really want to bring them back in par with the rest of our colleagues and in the organization, I think it's high time that we have brought in this process of looking at bringing in parity in place for specific job roles. Last but not the least, remove name and gender from CV. Let people be evaluated not basis gender, qualification, experience. Let people be evaluated purely basis what they bring onto the table today, and what is the real need and interest towards their job levels and commitment to the organization. Whether you are a payroll employee or a non-payroll employee, treat them equally with when it comes to benefits. Today, we are extending benefits to our employees, but I think we should go beyond and extend it to even non-actual employees who are women employees. Last but not the least, your recruitment panel should also reflect diversity. If you want more women to be hired, you need to ensure that your recruitment panels also have equal representation of women taking interviews of women. Another thing that you could also look at is create diversity champions of men colleagues. Why do we really keep men away? And I'm really happy to see a lot of men who has joined us today in this session. Typically, when you have these kind of sessions, you see a lot of women folks and less of men, because men would always say, anyways, it's about gender diversity, it's nothing to do with me, right? But why not create champion colleagues who can speak about it and who can really be the voice of diversity? For our women colleagues, build financial and business acumen for them to reach the top levels. If you want to really reach the top levels, from a training or input perspective, organizations need to build in financial and business acumen. You all of a sudden can't place a women in C-suite. You need to give them a gradual progression. And if that's the culture, you need to build a culture in organizations wherein women are looked at every levels in the organization, not just looked at specific roles and levels, but from an entry to mid-level to senior level. And there should be structured interventions programs oriented towards helping them climb the ladder of success. Last but not the least, you need to ensure a safe workplace, physically and mentally. That's very, very important if you really want to bring in more women workforce into the organizational workplace. Promote culture and not programs. Yes, you can do a lot of programs. You can bring in experts. You can talk about diversity, but unless and until you really build a culture in the organization, it all remains at program levels and not at execution levels, and it will not bring in change. Leadership should own it and not just delegate it to an HR function or to a DNI champion. Every leader should own it, speak about it, and be the voice of change. When it comes to measuring diversity and inclusion, it's very simple. The representation is actually a measure of diversity. How well are you represented by gender? How well are you represented by age? How well are you represented by skills? How well are you represented by sexual orientation? How well are you represented by physical disabilities? That clearly is a measure of diversity. While inclusion really comes live through employee experience. What's the best experience that you can give them to make them feel inclusive in this journey of D&I?